Amazon Darren here, taking a look at this brand new 7-inch Fire tablet by Amazon. So this thing is only $50, and the big question is, what are we sacrificing for that price point? Because that is just about as low as you can go in terms of tablet costs. First thing you'll notice, there's an advertisement. You can either pay less for one that has advertisements and pay more for one that does not. So for $15 in savings, you have to just see that when you first power it on, which to me is totally fine. So, very first thing, the screen. And please ignore if you're seeing any weird wavy things going on or rainbows, that's the high resolution camera, not the tablet. So don't think that that's actually part of the screen. The screen itself looks nice and beautiful, but it is lower in resolution. It has a 171 pixels per inch resolution. It still looks plenty crisp and pleasing. If you do look closely, you can see the pixels. It's not going to compare to some higher end smartphones or higher end tablets. Let's keep in mind, this thing is $50 freaking dollars. So even at that, you still get a tablet that, as you can see, is moving really quite snappy. You know, let's get into the processor later. Let's look at some text readability. I just finished watching this. You know what? We're going to have to lower the brightness a little bit. So you can lower the brightness. It's right about there. So text readability is overall pretty nice. I'm used to high resolution tablets and Kindle e-ink, so I'm a bit spoiled for beautifully readable text. This is not beautiful, but it is plenty readable, so I will leave it at that. If you're not familiar with this ecosystem, just swipe up and you can get to your home, back, and Windows buttons. It also can play video pretty readily. So if I were to just go into here, wait, no, I don't want to pay for that. That's new. I don't want new releases. Where's Prime? Here, Covert Affairs, whatever that is. I'm not familiar. So let's see. Prefer to buy? No, we just want to play. So plays right away. I got really good Wi-Fi here. That's obviously a fact you got to keep in mind. But as you can see, playing back video, and the quality looks nice. It's obviously not going to be like 4K or even full 1080 crisp, but it is plenty enjoyable as it is, especially for $50. I did try playing a 1080 file on my YouTube account, on my Vimeo account, and while it was able to play, it did hiccup for the first 30 seconds, and it wasn't perfectly smooth, but it was definitely watchable. But again, this screen is not even 1080, it is a little bit less than 720 in resolution, so there's really not a whole lot of benefit in playing back higher resolution files. As you can see, there's the typical apps available: Facebook, Netflix, YouTube, even Facebook Messenger's on there. This is not the full Android App Store, unfortunately. This is Amazon's own kind of limited version. I am not aware if you can get the full Android on here without rooting or anything like that, but as it is, oh, that's Amazon Shopping. We'll get to that in a second. As it is, you can get to a decent number of apps, but as you can see, they're focusing a lot on games. They're really catering to the kids crowd. So yeah, for $50, let your kid destroy it. But although I think they do have the higher price tablet that has like the full warranty for kids. You can also buy accidental damage for this for, I believe it's $10 for a year, which is really quite inexpensive. But again, it's only for a $50 tablet. So that's what, 10% of the cost? I don't do math very well. Anyways, let's go to music. So let's just pop on something from Prime. Again, Prime is really the biggest benefit of these tablets because everything's built in. If you don't have Prime, then it might not be as worth it. But it's still a very good tablet overall for the price if you don't have Prime. But you should look into Prime. So as you can see, we're playing here. The sound on this, the volume buttons are over here. If I can find them. You know, let's get a little louder. It gets loud enough that in a quiet room, it's plenty loud. But if you're in, say, a noisy place, it might not be that impressive and you might want to plug in your headphones. Now, the other nice thing, much like your phone, you can play something in the background and do other stuff. And then much like regular Android, right here, you can pause it and get rid of it. So speaking of games, don't ask me why. I downloaded a Goat Simulator. And I already loaded this up. It does take a good 15 seconds or so to load. Then when you click on the game to load into the game, it takes another like 15 seconds. We're going to skip ahead of that right about now. So we have skipped ahead of that loading stuff. And as you can see, we are now a goat. And we can headbutt things and fall over and jump and hop and skip around. And as you can see, it is playing pretty darn normally and very playable. This is not exactly a higher resolution or high intensity game. The processor itself isn't that much slower than the other higher end Kindle, or rather Fire tablets, but they did scale it back for this lower priced device. But as you can see, it really isn't hampering the overall usability. If you're using it for all the typical basic stuff and not trying to download any really high intensity games, it works pretty darn well and you're not missing out on much of the experience. Here, of course, you can just load up Amazon and shop for stuff. And going right to the home, you can see they've loaded up a lot of typical things you'd see on your phone, such as a calculator, a calendar. You can load up your contacts. You can connect your camera to it. You can load up your videos onto it. This thing actually apparently already connected to some sort of my account, and a bunch of my videos are loaded up on here. Anyways, so my overall impression is, for $50, this thing is remarkably unbeatable. I think they really set a new standard in low price but still higher quality tablets. The build quality feels nice. There's no creaking. The screen feels good. Now, the two things that are going to make me return this particular model and probably exchange it for the same model is that I found two hot pixels, stuck pixels. If you're not familiar with what that is, you've got a whole lot of little tiny dots on here to make up the screen. And back in the day, there used to be an issue with, coming with defective ones that are stuck or hot or a certain color. And I didn't even think that was possible these days because of quality control. I haven't seen it in years, but sure enough, I found two stuck pixels on this screen. So I'm gonna obviously do the very simple return process and get a new one, but I hope that maybe I just got a very special random case of that happening, and hopefully that's rare, but you should check your screen for stuck pixels. Put on a totally black screen, totally white screen, red, green, and blue screens, and look for any pixels that are standing out. And if you find them, exchange it for one that doesn't have one. One other thing I will mention is that you can expand the memory of this up to 128 gigabytes. And it's nice because those micro SD cards are really darn cheap, so you can inexpensively expand this to hold a lot of stuff. So the other nice thing, even at this price point, they included a front and a rear camera. So that's great for doing like video calls and whatnot. Just don't expect it to be great photo quality. I don't think they intended that. And obviously it's very much more worth it if you are a Prime subscriber. This is built all around Amazon's Prime ecosystem. So if you're not a Prime subscriber, maybe try it out, but look at it for your own uses and see if it makes sense. So I'm Amazon Darren for this new 7-inch Fire tablet. I love reviewing, and if you have a product or service you would like reviewed, get in touch and I will give it the full run-through.